Welcome to Season 7 of True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. Real talk with those who pledge to keep us safe with grit, sacrifice and determination. Let's get on with the show. This episode of True Blue Conversations is proudly brought to you by Loudon Private Wealth, the team trusted by professionals, veterans and families across Australia to build real long-term financial security. If you want to take control of your finances, protect your future and build real generational wealth, Loudon Private Wealth are the people you want in your corner. They don't do gimmicks, they don't do hype, just smart strategy and honest advice, coupled with real-world experience. Check out the links in the description to contact Warren and the team via loudonpw.com.au or 02 8313 0418. Now let's get back to the show. This episode of True Blue Conversations was brought to you by Dead Reckoning Rum, creating individual rum releases commemorating the diggers lost in Afghanistan, proudly supporting veterans, donating 50% of all their profits to veterans organisations around Australia. Look up Dead Reckoning Rum, buy some bottles, connect via Instagram and Facebook and give them your support. Now, let's get back to the show.
G'day, welcome back to True Blue. Today, I have a very special guest. I have my first Canadian police officer, and this guest has an amazing story and has just become an author. And you're going to hear in her story that she wrote her book in a month, which is just wild. And I'll introduce her in a second. And with this book, it talks about her career as a police officer and being diagnosed with PTSD and also being diagnosed with adult ADHD, which I'm really excited to talk about and dive deep into in this chat. And I can relate to her story because I suffered ADHD, and it's a story it's raw, it's honest, it's powerful, and she has a mission now to help all first responders who are struggling, which is a cause close to my heart. And as I said, it's an absolute honour and a privilege to have her on and be the first Canadian police officer to be on my podcast. So, Lana Boland, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
As I said from the start, you have done it all. You have had a wild career that is you're still serving, so it's not over yet.
I am.
But as I said, an author. So congratulations. Welcome to the Authors Club.
You.
It's a pretty cool club to be part of. And
weird times.
Hey, well, we're just talking off air about Stephen King. You know, like you're now alongside your hero. So. Look at that.
He's still in my heart.
Yeah, that's right. So,
I love him.
Absolutely. Well, he's, as we said, you know, he's one of the good guys and a good mentor to have. And so before we get into your career, let's go back. Let's go back to a young Lana. Tell me about you growing up. What was life like?
When I was very, very young, I was bullied relentlessly. And I think that's largely due to my ADHD, and I'm female, so it doesn't get diagnosed, which is great. So I remember very vividly that there was a poster behind me when I was in grade school, and I couldn't turn my head to copy the letters, and I didn't understand why. So it was so incredibly frustrating for my parents. So elementary school was terrible. I actually have curly hair, and I still don't wear my hair curly because I was called a poodle, which, yay, kids are super nice. I sort of, like, in high school, things changed, but it was a journey to get there. Like, a lot happened. A lot was very traumatizing. Just because, you know, society is society, and we really don't fit into society being ADHD, neurodivergent.
Mm.
We need to find our own ocean. Yeah. So
And
it took me a while.
and for you, did you when you're getting called a poodle, I got called a freckle-faced fart machine from Kmart and a ranger, and because I
Oh,
was a redhead. And for you, like I know for me, it attacked my self-esteem. Was your
yes.
self-esteem pretty shot as well?
Oh, 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 yes. Like beyond. It was terrible. And I actually like, despite um being somewhat popular in high school and having a lot of friends, after which, until I was diagnosed and medicated for ADHD, I didn't realize how much I hated myself.
Mm. Mm. And and it's interesting because you go into a job that most people hate, like they, and I
Yeah,
mean that with to all my police colleagues out there, most dealings of people or most people's interactions with police, they're not always nice, and they always go, police, hate police, they're all this, they're all that, and it's like, so
yes.
you went into a job that most people, like of all the careers you
Uh-huh.
could have chosen, yeah, you chose to be a
Well,
police officer.
well, I needed benefits. So it just seemed I graduated university into an economic recession in 2008. And I was unemployed, obviously, as most were. And I remember people were out like walking their dogs in their business suits, and I was like in my pajamas walking my dogs. And I was talking about writing a paper about postgraduate syndrome. And I was at a barbecue, and somebody randomly said, "Oh, aren't you like so and so's sister?" Yes, yes, I am. Why don't you apply for the records department of like the police service? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Fair enough. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, right. So, and with that being that like you go through the recession and all that sort of like, and that was, I know that was a big thing because it was a world recession.
Oh
It,
yeah.
it, it hit us
Oh
as
yeah.
well. And I remember that. And did you have any family that had served in the military or first responders before you, or were you the first?
So my uncle, he served with the federal force here. Um, and I always knew that, but he was like on the other side of the country. Him and I have had several chats since. He actually taught me to drive,
Mm-hmm.
when he was vacationing here to visit us. But I think he's the only one. Everybody else is teachers.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, and see, that's the thing with you, with your ADHD. I mean, I know I was told I was the class clown. I was, you're never going to amount to anything. So I can see with you, it's like, okay, being a teacher doesn't really fit your
No,
personality.
no. And like even as a police officer, I wasn't overly professional. I just tell it like it is. Because why wouldn't I? And I was the only officer that had like I claimed the record for two chief's complaints in one day. And
Okay.
but I left that meeting saying, where do you want to go with the service? Because you just seem like somebody who tells people exactly how it is. And they don't like that, which, well, sorry.
And I can't wait to dive into more of that in a minute of, like, because that's what I love about you from when we first met. I was like, yeah, I love everything about you because you tell it as it is and you call a spade, and literally it's black or white, there's no gray.
Hey, Mutual Appreciation Society, because, there's just no nonsense. Why? Why? I just
Exactly.
don't understand why people don't say exactly what they mean. And like, yeah, as a professional, if somebody is causing damage to other people, why can't you say, you're causing this damage? Like, I
Mm,
don't know, you could probably stop.
mm,
Like,
100%.
it's easy enough. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, when we're going to get into the wokeness of how policing's changed, and it's not just in Australia, it's in the world, and I'm interested, and we spoke about it, off air. And we're going to dive deep into, how things have changed from when you first joined the police to now, and how criminals have rights, and which they shouldn't. But we'll dive into that a little bit later in the podcast. But let's go back to, as you said, you joined up and you were in the civilian side of things first, and is this where you started to get that willingness to, serve and protect, and or did that come a little bit later?
No, I think that's always been my personality where I've always stood up for what's right.
Mm,
Typically, it puts a target on my back. So it actually made sense at the end of the day. Like there was no one before I became a police officer. It was like, she's going to be a police officer.
mm,
Absolutely not. But it made sense.
mm. And so you do the civilian side of things for a little bit, and then you join up, and so you join up as officially to become a sworn officer in 2010. Is that correct?
2015.
Okay, so
So I was civilian from 2009 until 2015.
Okay, so talk me through that process of, because as I say, you're the first Canadian police officer I've had on the podcast, and like I know in Australia you have to go through a whole heap of testing and all that sort of
Oh,
thing. And
yes. Oh,
what
yes.
yeah, talk me through that process.
So, basically, when I was a civilian, an inspector pulled me aside and said, "You need to become sworn." And I'm like, "Well, I'm like 10 pounds, 2 inches tall, maybe not the best fit for me." And he said, "No, like your best weapon is your voice, and you'd be perfect." So I did everything I had to do from getting to like once I decided, it took a bit to decide. But from getting from point A to B basically meant that I had to become fit. I had to learn math, which was terrible. Like I had to go to math lessons. So it took a while for me to actually pass the tests because I'm very derpy with math. And the tests were actually like hard if you don't
Mm,
train properly, which I learned to do. And then I applied to several services. I was hired by the federal service, and that included a polygraph, which was the worst day of my life. It was 8 hours long and it was terrible. But apparently, I'm all right because I passed. And then I ended up going through the process with the regional service, which was a 9-month process, which is quite short relatively.
mm,
And it involved several interviews, psych tests, physical tests, a board interview, which was I actually talk about that as well in my book. That I was very intimidated, but one of my last questions was who would win in a cage match between you and John Cena. And
oh, gee.
obviously, the answer is me. So my recruiter, who was outside the door, was like, "Did I just hear them laugh?" Yeah, but like the whole board interview was about like my shitty finances and everything about me, and it was terrible.
Mm,
The whole process is grueling. The psychologist that we were assigned like cranked up the heat on the day that he was to interview me, I suppose is the term. Um, and I had to keep my blazer on, so I like sweat profusely. And I think that was like part of the like psychological trick. Like, is she gonna be like remain professional or is she gonna like rip off her blazer? So yeah, it was a weird time.
mm. And with that process, like
Yep.
and we're going to get into your PTSD diagnosis and your ADHD down a little bit down the track, but are you looking back now, are you amazed that wasn't picked up in those initial screenings when you were first coming in to be a sworn officer?
Nope.
No.
No. Like I'm not just ADHD, I'm 2E.
Okay.
Um, And because one of my thought patterns somewhat like contradicts the other, or like actually not even somewhat, they absolutely do.
Mm,
It's hard to pick up on one or the other.
mm.
Um, where like one masks the other. So like nobody would ever guess unless like you know me and you
Yeah.
have, an MD.
Yeah, of course. No, and it's funny you say that because people say to me, they're like, they go, "You don't have it." I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, I was on
Um,
medication for since I was 6 till I was 17. Like,
I would have
yes,
loved that.
yeah,
That would
well,
have been perfect.
yeah. So you go through that process, and then you're accepted, and then
Mhm,
you join. So you join the academy, and knowing like now what you know through like with your ADHD and that, how did you find like obviously you said you went to university as well, so
mhm,
you seem to retain things. So was the
mhm,
academy really hard to like what was the
mhm.
hardest part? Was like learning all the different laws and the legislations, or talk me through that process?
Falling asleep in class because I'm not very good at a desk. No, like I did fine academically. I did fine in every element. But I would fall asleep.
Mm.
And that happened to me in school too, because it's boring.
Sitting at a desk, I know it's just not you. It's like same for me. It's yeah, it
hmm
goes
So
in and
that was the
yeah.
hardest. Well, and being isolated. So our police college is like way off in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
And you're like in this weird little village with really, really bad air quality, and really bad food. I actually developed an intolerance to MSG while I was
Right.
there. So that was great. So you can imagine running when everything is spiced with MSG, and trying to do all the physical testing when you have like an intolerance to it, which
Mm.
great,
Mm.
great.
And
Yep.
how long was that? How long was, because I know out here in Australia, the academies, oh, it changes state to state, but I know in New South Wales it's not 9 months. So you're at the
hmm
academy for 9 months, and
hmm
you do. I think it's changed now a little bit, but I know that session two is your driving, it's your shooting, and so because you're the first Canadian, talk me through. Do you guys go through similar, or what happens over there?
Every service differs. So my service in particular starts with like pre-police college.
Hmm.
And I think that's like about like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And then we go to the actual police college with um, all of the other like officers that are, hired, where there's usually about like 300, 330.
Oh wow,
And we
that
live in
big?
our weird, well, not my service. This is all like the provincial
Ah,
services.
right. Yep, yep, yep.
Like the federal has their own training facility. So we spend like in my time, I think it was like 12 weeks and change. And then we did something called post college. And that's actually where like a lot of damage was caused to me. And I think it might be 5 weeks. And then we go into field training, which is typically 3 to 4 months, depending on like your phases and your progress. So it's a jaunt.
Mm. And do they, with
Excuse me.
that? No, you're right. And with that, do they like? Because I know back here in Australia, well, with some of the
hmm
older police veterans I've had on, they exposed them. They took them to the morgue. They would show them a dead body. Did they do that with you
hmm
guys? Do they show you that? Like, do they
No,
actually take you to the morgue? No. So it's literally
no.
you have to basically the first time you see a dead body is when you're out actually on on the
hmm
beat.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, right. So that, and was there many females that were in the course with you, like that went through the academy?
So the Affirmation Act in Canada, I don't know about Australia, it was in 94.
Hmm.
So I think in our class of, I think it was 31, we had 11 females.
Okay. Yeah, right. So like that's not a bad number. Like and like
No.
It's good, and like the and do you like what was the toughest part of training, do you think? Like looking back in the academy now?
At the actual police college,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
none of it was overly difficult.
Okay.
Like, I'll be honest, not falling asleep in class is probably number one. Or when I got a very nasty ear infection
Mm,
from like the facility's pool,
yep.
where they had to like drain my ear at the hospital with a syringe. That probably was the worst of it. It wasn't terrible, none of
Mm.
it.
So do you like it like when you have your pass out? Like I know out here in Australia, did you get the family down to see you pass out, and what was that like? To finally become a sworn police officer.
Well, we don't become sworn at the actual college. We graduate the college, and yeah, like my family came. It was great. And there was a limited number of people, but we have our like graduations within our own services.
Okay, yeah, right. Oh, that's different. That's because out here in Australia, when you finish the academy, you are sworn in. That's you now. You're now a sworn police officer. So that's interesting. It's different. As you say, each country's different, and so you like. And I know here in Australia, and for our overseas listeners here in Australia.
Mhm.
Once you're sworn, you have to do general duties for 3 years, and then you can go down specific. If you want to go and be a detective, you go and do a detective's course. So it's a bit different. So over there, you get and do you get like for do you get to choose what station you go to, or are you just like, righto, Lana, you're going here, and that's where you are, or what? Talk me through that process.
Kind of. You get to rank them. So at the time, when we were ranking our stations, I like my boyfriend, who's now my husband, was at a particular station, so I had to like rank that station last. But you really don't get a say. They'll just try to give you your preference, but it's
Mm.
like where the need is.
So, okay, yeah, so it's pretty similar to here. Like they say, you get to choose, but they'll pretty much put you where pretty much put you where
Oh yeah.
where they want you. And did you
Yeah.
feel like for you looking back now, did you feel
Mhm.
after all the training you'd had, did you feel ready that okay, I'm now going out into the dangerous world of policing? Did you feel that okay, I'm ready to hit the street and do my job? Like looking back?
No, no. It's not reality when you're in training. Like
Mm,
I certainly eventually felt that way. But it takes time. Not everyone's ready to deal with violent people, and it's different when it's in reality.
mm. And
So yeah, that takes time.
And for you, so you hit the beat and you get posted as a general duties police officer. And what are
Mhm.
some of the day-to-day crimes that you're dealing with? Like like because are you in a where you're posted to? Are you in an upper like economical area, or are you sort of lower end? Like, talk me through being some of the jobs that you're
Big
doing.
city,
Big city,
big
yeah.
city. So it was call to call to call. We rarely ever got to the lower priority calls where you would be, going to an impaired driver, and clear that off on your way to a sudden death, or a violent call. So it was just call to call to call to call, and you wrap it up as quickly as you can. You do your paperwork as best you can with lights and sirens, like going, which wild. But yeah, it was wild. Just
Mm.
call to call to call.
Yeah, right.
No breaks.
And do you remember your first shift? And do you remember your first
Yep,
arrest? Do you remember your first
yep.
arrest?
It was my first shift.
Okay, talk us through this.
So I had one call previous, and then immediately after another call came over. That was a male party that was throwing like vodka bottles into the road, and then boarded a city bus. And yeah, so he was angry. Like that's the best description. And very fighty. And we got him into custody, and he yelled at me the entire way to the station, called me a prostitute. Uh, so yeah, it was my first shift.
I can, I'm laughing with you because I can honestly, like, I'm one of the lucky ones. I
Oh
can see
yeah.
you. I can see you from on the other. You do not look like a prostitute. I can tell you. Like, that's very
The names I was called by people I was transporting to the station. And like I think that's just like it's not a reflection of me.
mm,
But yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, you're disgusting," blah, blah. And like I think that's just sort of like even messaging on just being a female, like
true.
which is yeah.
It's, but and I guess for you, like when you become a police officer, did it take you long to? And pretty much I asked this question to every single police officer that I've ever had on the podcast.
Mhm.
Did it take you long to see that, like, to change and see the world from all people are bad unless they prove otherwise to be good? Did it take you long to like change that lens?
I don't think I ever did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that lens at all. I never did. Um, and it shocks me that we deal with people in their worst moments,
Mm,
and nobody is going to, be on their best behavior in their worst moments. And I think that everyone deserves to be treated with a level of respect. So I don't think that I have ever seen everyone within the lens of everyone's bad because they're not. And even people who have been coined as bad, they're not necessarily bad. They've just been dealt a shitty hand, or they're traumatized, or they're mentally ill. Um, in the moment, like we have to stop the threat for
mm,
sure. But you don't necessarily need to like write it home that they're a bad person. Like, what does that do?
mm.
Like,
Yeah, and
yeah, I think most people are medium good.
that's and I like the way that you've like referenced that is that genuinely most people are good and it's through circumstances and I mean like you look at it, if you come from a shit family and they're
Hmm.
criminals, the chance for you to actually get out and not follow, like as you are your environment. So
Yep.
if you're surrounded by criminals, the chances are very highly likely that you're going to become a criminal. So I really do like the way you've answered that.
But thank you. It like, and it's true that, we're all a product of our own environment. But people can rise above those circumstances as well.
Mm,
I don't think anyone's circumstances is a testament of who they are. But that's kind of why we need to deal with the antecedent rather than reacting to crime, which like there are bad people, like absolutely evil people, but I don't think that is the rule.
absolutely. And here in Australia, like when you became a GD's officer over there in Canada, I know
Mhm.
a lot of the police talk about field training officers. Did you have some good mentors that taught you along the way to become a really good general duty and how important they are the really make or break your career, don't they? Like if they're lazy,
Hmm.
you're gonna.
Hmm.
So did you have some good training officers over there?
I would say so. Like there was one like I was his first, and he was a bit inexperienced. He's very experienced now. But I got um very different levels of field training, but I think all three of my field training officers added something.
Which is good, like and that's the thing. Everyone's different. There's many ways to skin a cat, and that it's good that you could learn, and then like you develop your own style, don't you? Like essentially,
Hmm.
you developed your
Yeah.
own style.
Yep. Yep. And
So
like I think that's I'm never gonna. emulate someone else's style. It's always going to be my style. There was no other way.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, we're all different and we're all unique. And
Hmm.
so, do you remember your first death? And
Yep.
was there support around that when you like? And obviously, you as police officers, you have to give death notices to families. And did that support get better? And has it got better, as your careers progressed, or is it still like I know in Australia most say no, it was shit, and it's still shit.
Hard no. Hard no. So typically sergeants deliver death notifications. My first death was an overdose. Yeah, there was absolutely no support. I was a rookie, and we examined the whole body, and it was what it was, and then like rinse, repeat, next call.
And this is why I love doing these podcasts, Lana, because it shows the public what you guys go through, and it's not it's not a normal job. It's not you go to the
No.
office, you do, like you're, and like in some shifts, I spoke to one police officer that he had three deaths in one shift, like
No,
three
that's
deaths
normal.
in a
Yep,
12-hour period.
that's
It's like,
normal.
yeah,
Yeah, that's typical. I
it's
like because I was big city. So we called them sets because we were four on, four off. I don't think when I was on the road there was ever a set I didn't have to pull up my gun.
yeah, right.
And like most police officers, I think typically never pull out their gun, but where I worked, it was common.
So is that for you guys to do that? Is that like so you're like because I know out here to like it's risk like like risk of life. It's so are these guys just resisting arrest for you to do that, or what's like for you to like constantly have to draw your gun? Do you guys have like tasers over there as well?
Yes, we didn't when I started, but it's very fluid. And there's not really an answer for that. When someone has lethal force, well, obviously we meet them with lethal force.
Mm.
When we conduct searches, we have our guns out, like by design, and I think that's like quite intelligent design. But yeah, um, we encountered that usually once a set where, we were doing, a search of a building that had an alarm, or somebody potentially had a weapon, or, I was part of a high risk takedown when I first started, because a guy had a gun in public. Like yeah, it just happens. And this is big city.
Mm. Yeah, wow. And with that, are you so with all these like traumas, these deaths, all these critical incidents, are you just compartmentalizing them, putting them away just in a box like, hey, yep, cracking on with the job, like, yep, this is
Yep.
it's shit,
Yep.
but yeah, and that that affect like that comes out later, doesn't it? Like that affects you later on and
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, you have to compartmentalize in order to sleep at night, I think.
mm,
And when I was a civilian, very early on, I remember the first infant death that I just wrote about. And I came home and I cried just at the entire call. It was terrible. And I think that's when I learned that you just put it away.
and I'm just gonna halt and pause there for a minute because you're a mum, and
Yeah.
infant death is I know what it's like
Hmm.
because my brother and sister tragically had a stillborn this year,
I'm so
and
sorry.
yeah, it's absolute hell for them, and
Hmm. Absolutely.
hell as an uncle, and but you as a mum,
Yeah.
like that must make you just tear your heart because your kids are they're your world to to
Hmm.
to do like that affects you, and obviously now when we're going to get into that in the book, But that chapter would have been hell to write because you're a mum.
I wasn't a mom then, to be fair. It was 16 years ago.
Mm.
Um, but I do look back um, on that particular call often. And now that I understand, um, which no one can explain to you what it is to be a mother. I just, I can't put I still can't wrap my brain around it.
Mm.
And how the parents behaved, um, and how they behaved to the other children. It was terrible.
Mm. And looking at it now from the lens that you can see it now, being that you are a mum,
Hmm.
those reactions that how they were reacting were how any normal, well, I'm assuming how any normal parent would react in the loss of a child.
No, this
Oh,
call actually bothered me more so, because the parents were not behaving as parents.
right.
Um, that was the most traumatizing portion, is that this little baby didn't have to die. And it was as a direct result of the way the parents were caring for the baby. And then the parents actually um, caused the baby's death and then blamed it on the other children. And
Wow.
then like breached repeatedly, which really bothered me.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. That gets me. That really does get to me, and I can see it. I can see you, and I thank you for, being vulnerable there, and that. Thank you for that. It really, yeah, that poor little, just another day of policing that is shit, and that's etched in for you forever, and so
Yep.
you're you're dealing with this, and then are you looking back? Are you now go like you're enjoying the GD side of things, and then
Hmm.
is this after there's only so much that you can like this trauma that you can deal with? Is this when you decide
Hmm.
to go down your detectives and go down that detective route?
No. I actually landed pregnant.
All
So
right.
I ended up being assigned as an investigator, but I couldn't deal with suspects directly. So I transcribed interviews. I helped with investigations. Um, and that was that. That was my first pregnancy, where I was like the phone call police slash an investigator.
That would have been, and we were speaking off air, and that was hell for you.
Yeah. Oh, it was terrible. Terrible.
And
I'm
that
not a desk person.
I was going to say, yeah, I know you, and yeah, you're not a desk person at all. Like it,
Mm-mm,
so,
mm-mm. Give
and
me the
is
road all the day. Like,
so,
and even to be an investigator, I'm good at it.
hmm,
But like I'm better in the field.
yeah, and with being, like that's for you, as you're saying, you're better in the field. And was that was that pregnancy the one where you nearly passed, or was it the second pregnancy?
But yep, yep. That's the
So
one.
yeah, well, let's talk about this because as you said to me,
Hmm.
I couldn't believe this. Like you nearly died. Like that's just
Yes, yes, I did. Oh, I did die.
oh, you did die. Sorry, yes, you did die.
Yep.
Yes,
I'm the OA, as
yes,
discussed.
that's right. So you've got
Yep.
yes. So talk us through this.
So I gained 110 pounds with my daughter, give or take. So if I like, I'm a very tiny woman. So if I were to birth her naturally, I would have shattered my tailbone and been on a desk for the rest of my life, which is my worst nightmare. So we did a C-section with my daughter, and I clotted and then bled out, was pronounced dead. And like it all happened the first time I was holding her for the first 2 seconds, and I looked at the nurse and I was like, I'm about to go down. Um, and I did. And she took the baby. It was a code blue. My whole family, my husband's family, they were all like hearing this code blue. I was in intensive care and I'm the Wolverine, and here we are, 8 years later.
And look at what you've done now. Like you know, you're a published author. Like this. Hey, you weren't ready to go. There was obviously you had more work to do, and we'll talk about the work that you're doing, for first responders shortly, and that's credit to you. Hey, good thing you're here. That's what I say, Lana. Good thing you're
Well,
still here.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
happy to. And my poor husband was like, I have to do this alone. Well, he's like in the recovery room, like holding our daughter, who like the nurse basically like tossed at him.
mm, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
So
Yeah.
he's happy too.
Well, as you know what, it's like you wanted drama. Well, you had it. Like that's
I am.
you die and come back. Like yeah, and you're pronounced like
Yeah.
far out. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
Well,
wild.
actually, the book is dedicated to Very Sad Daughter.
There you go. There you go.
And
Look at
yeah,
that.
she came out with a bang. With a bang.
And is this something that you're going to look back on when she's 18 and go, "Hey, listen here, mum, like, mum died and came back. Like you being a
Imagine.
little, yeah, you're being a little shit to me. Like, hey, I died to bring you into this world."
I could say that like several times today. She's a lot.
Yes.
But I love her, and no, we cannot use that against her.
No, no, that's right. And you know,
It's not fair that you were a giant baby.
no, that's true. That's very true. And you mentioned that your husband's in the job, and like
Hmm.
family members who aren't in, like, I get it for, I'm a first responder, a firefighter over here in Australia.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
I struggle. Like I can talk to my mum because my mum was a nurse, so she understands it. But you know,
Hmm.
having your husband in the job as well, that must be like a support because you can bounce off each other with your what you see and what you're doing to a degree.
Sometimes. We try not like we don't really talk work at
Mm,
home, by design. Um, yeah, like when there's a really, really bad call, yes. But not typically, like we don't talk about it.
mm. Well, I think it's a healthy thing to do too because it's like that's my job, but this is home life. It's different, and that's like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for your own mental health and his mental health as well.
Hmm.
That's a good practice. Like, and it's sort of like have the debrief. Cool. This is how work was. Yes, it was shit. Okay, that's that done now. Let's just be family.
Yeah. Let's just be normal. Where a lot of my police friends, they speak in 10 code and like it's awful.
Mm,
Awful. Where like I don't want to be like 10-4 like when I'm talking to people outside of work. Why
mm,
why do we do that? Or
mm.
like Roger.
Well, do you look at it too, like, and most of the police veterans I've had on, a lot of them have
Hmm.
said you've got to have a mix of both police friends and civilian friends. Still have both, not
Yeah.
just not just have
Yes.
not just have that, core police friends because
Hmm.
you're only getting one perspective of the lens of life. It's not, having your civilian mates who can give you that
Hmm.
other lens.
Well, yeah, and that was actually advice from my uncle in the very beginning,
Mm,
where he said, like, don't just have police friends. And that's true because you end up living your life in 10 code.
mm,
Um, and who wants that? Like, I guess some, but certainly not me, where like I don't really have that many police officer friends. I have enough, but like our relationships are different. Like they're
mm,
not about policing. I would never want that. Like that's my job. That's not who I am.
mm. Yeah, and as we were talking when we first started, that you wear many capes. You're a daughter,
Yeah.
you're a mum, you're a friend,
Hmm.
you're a police officer,
Sister.
yeah, you're a
Yeah.
sister, you're an author, you're an auntie, you're all these things, all
Yep.
these things that you are that, you're not just defined by, I'm Lana, I'm the police officer. That doesn't define who you are.
No, absolutely not. It's my job.
And
It's a serious job, but it's just like it's my job. Not just my job, I shouldn't say, but it is my job. That is
mm,
not who I am. I conduct myself in accordance with my job.
well said. Well said. And I'm going to bring some questions in around that policing and that a little bit down the track. But so you then become, as you said, you go down to the CIB route. And
Yeah.
is it different? Like, because I know here in Australia that most like detectives they get like they go to be a general detective and then they go and do like they branch out if they want to do homicide or they want to go
Hmm.
to the drug squad. Or is it similar over there?
Yes. Where you start with like just criminal investigations and then typically you branch out from there.
So, do you actually have to go back to the academy to do your detective's course? Like, because I know here in
S-
Australia they do. Like, is it?
Sometimes
Yeah,
it
right.
depends. It really depends what you're doing. I know one of my girlfriends, she went to ident, which is forensics,
Hmm.
and she had to go back to like she went to the federal college for 3 months, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, right. And so did you have to go back, or you were just
No, no,
no?
no. I was just pregnant.
Yeah, right. So you're working on pregnant and working on some of those cases, and
Yeah,
so are you now that you're back currently on the road, or are like what's happening
I'm
now?
off.
You're off now.
I'm still an active police officer, but I'm off on PTSD. So it's a work-related stress injury, so I get workers' compensation at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So
So,
I've been off since May 2024.
yep. And I want to talk about this now because it's a real great segue because while you've been off, you're the
Hmm.
founder of Shattered Shield.
Hmm.
Talk me through what Shattered Shield is and what Shattered Shield does.
So I'm the co-founder, and the other co-founder found me when I started speaking out on social media, which was well before the book. I actually worked with him, but like we weren't friends. And something resonated with him where he felt seen through my messaging. So he found me and he was talking about creating a group to help people through workers' compensation and all the paperwork because executive functioning when you have PTSD is incredibly hard. And that's sort of what is like brung to us where we're like forced to self-diagnose, justify ourselves just to get paid, and we're the helpers of society. So that's how it started. And we vet every single member because I think all of us have been burned. So it's sort of a group of trust, where we can talk, we can share stories, we can try to help each other through programming. He actually wrote the foreword of my book. And he was a former tactical officer, which is why am I not thinking of the word in the US?
A SWAT?
Yes, SWAT. So he had his jugular sliced, and his story is quite wild. Um, so it was his idea, but then I helped with the formulation of the group.
Yeah, right. And is that like does that now go Canada wide? Like is it a service for all serving Canadian police officers?
It's everywhere. Um, and as long as you're vetted or recommended, then you join. And that's very much by design.
Mm, absolutely. No, that's awesome. And what a story. And good on you and the other guy for, putting together such because as you know, and I think every veteran, every first responder I ever speak to, that transition out is always it's a rough transition. They don't like no
Yep.
one transitions well, and over
No,
there, do you guys have programs in place for like your former police to go into other employment, or is that still a work in progress?
I don't think so. Um,
Sounds like
because
Australia.
yeah, they want us back, like full duties, and I've experienced that as well. Um, where yeah, they just want us back because they're bleeding people, obviously for obvious reasons. So,
Mm,
no, they just want us back. So, in order to like have programming that would put us elsewhere, I don't think would exist.
mm. And well, it brings me to, that's a great segue to where I want to bring it to now is you mentioned that, like policing is, hemorrhaging numbers worldwide. Like they are
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
absolutely, and in your opinion, policing has changed.
Yep.
It is not,
Hmm.
like yeah, the wokeness has come in to policing, and as you mentioned earlier, criminals now have rights. When you joined, criminals didn't have rights. Now they've got rights, and in my opinion, this is my opinion, if you break the
Yeah.
law, and you and I have
Yeah.
spoken about this, if you break the law,
Yeah.
your rights are forfeited. Like, and so
Yeah.
yeah, talk, what more do you think needs to be done to keep police in the job across the world? Like it's a worldwide problem. Policing is like we are
Hmm.
hemorrhaging police. Like here in New South Wales,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
4,000 police short. Like, you know,
Yep. Yep.
so in
And that's yeah. Um, so it's the entire system. It's systemic. And I wouldn't even call it wokeness. I would say it's about public optics, where leadership tends to care more about optics and placating to the public rather than like the victims. And that's true on every single level. Where in the justice system, we're giving more rights to the accused, worried about charter breaches, which is important. But the victims are being treated like crap, and they're hardly even considered. And that's why victims, I think, don't like tend to press charges because who wants to go through that? And then police service wise, when we have leaders that are largely concerned with optics and optics alone, and who looks best on a brochure with recruitment, um, it's very deflating.
mm,
And I actually wrote an entire chapter. Would I have been hired if I wasn't a woman? Was I hired for skill or was I hired for the brochure or the numbers or the check boxes? Um, so I think a lot of people are getting into policing and realizing they have no real support. The big blue family isn't reality. Like we will toss each other under the bus somehow for our next promotion or political appointment. And it's so disheartening.
and I'm really glad you shared that because it's here in Australia. So it's the same thing. The top brass, there's so
Hmm.
much disconnect between the guys on the ground, like you guys, and the top
Hmm.
brass. And as you've said, the following the political agenda of like, oh, well,
Hmm.
if I do this, I'll get promoted to this, or I'll do this, or it seems to be that the top
Yep.
brass are looking after themselves and not giving a
Yes.
shit about you guys on the ground
Hmm.
who are actually at the coalface.
We're their chess pieces, essentially. Like we are their chess pieces, and they don't consult us. Very recently, there was this like very bizarre like camp that was to discuss suicide prevention for officers as a response to obviously some of us are speaking about the epidemic that's occurring. And you know who they didn't consult? Us.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
and that blow. I'm looking at you just in shock. Like I'm blown away by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like they went to go like discuss us without talking to us. Sorry, these are brand new headphones, so
No,
I'm like adjusting.
you're all
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
I'm
all good.
adjusting myself. But like not like they won't talk to us. They have directives in place that say that like that they cannot communicate with us once we go on leave. But like we're communicating with them, asking for a response, and then they use this self-created directive because it's bad for optics to admit that, officers are killing themselves.
Mm. Well, recently in Australia, we had the Royal Commission into veteran suicide, and a lot of first responders I've spoken to have said maybe they should do a Royal Commission into first responders.
Hmm.
Our numbers would just be as high,
Yeah, they're absurdly high
yeah, yeah,
globally,
yeah,
globally. And I like the worst part is I think a lot of this was ushered in by 2020 and the rhetoric from 2020 where the pendulum just shifted too far in one direction. And we were like, people would like pelt eggs at us, scream in our faces, and the upper echelon was too busy with their optics than to actually deal with us who are on the ground,
mm. And
which,
a global pandemic doesn't help that either, Like it's like
yeah,
that would have been for you guys, like every police
yeah.
officer you talk to, COVID
Hmm.
was literally enforcing laws that, taking people's civil rights away. Like, and like, arresting them for, being less than a meter away from someone. Like it would have been hard. Like that would have been hard for you guys.
For us, that was bylaw.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we didn't, but like we were yelled at a lot. We had a lot of stuff pelted at us. We had to deal with people that like imagine being mentally unwell before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
Um, so the level of violence was unheard of,
Mm.
where people were just becoming unhinged.
And I know I speak to a lot of police that during that time, domestic violence went through the roof because
Yeah,
everyone was on
yeah,
top
it
of each
did.
other. Everyone was on top
Yep,
of each other because you couldn't
yep.
go you couldn't go anywhere. Like so
Truth torpedo.
exactly,
Truth
exactly.
torpedo. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you are correct that like our calls were basically domestics or like people that were very mentally unwell that were causing dangerous situations in public
Mm,
and
yeah.
protests.
Oh, there was plenty of them around. Yeah,
Oh yes, oh yes.
yeah, and
And like we can't have an opinion. Like obviously that's our job not to.
got to stay neutral.
But it was crazy times.
And in that sense, like you just mentioned, you raise a very valid point there. You're getting eggs thrown at you.
Hmm.
You're getting like spat on, abused. Like,
Yep, yep.
are you thinking, why did I do this? Like, why did I join this job? Like, because is it worth it? Like, looking like, to be spat on, to be thrown eggs and, that higher calling, yes, like the willingness to serve, but that must wear you down and go, why do I do this job?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I would say sometimes. But I think it more led me to like, this is the end of the world. Like everybody has lost their minds. Like how do we even compute this? And even people within like my service had lost their minds. And I had to listen to like verbal garbage from like a few,
Mm,
but still, I'm like, I can't even talk to you anymore. Like you're not even a person anymore. You're a robot to like conspiracy theories.
mm. Oh yeah. Oh God, the conspiracy theories went around. Don't
Yeah.
worry, they weren't just in Canada. They're out here too.
Oh, everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere. And, I want to speak to specifics, but I won't
Yes.
for, obvious reasons, but like just the decisions that were made by people that I considered friends, that actually like interrupted, like, emergency services is beyond me,
Mm.
or the people that they would support. I remember, um, many members supported this one particular gentleman, if we can call him that, who ran over a police officer, but he was a huge conspiracy theorist, so they were like watching him on stage. Um, and like it just boggled my mind, and it was so upsetting.
Mm. It's and like y- how do you like you're in the Blue family. You mentioned,
Hmm.
like like
Hmm.
that guy was run over. Like, how do you deal with, because I'm sure in the time that you've been in the police, you've lost colleagues.
Hmm.
How does that affect, like,
Yep.
that affects you so much because they're part of the Blue family?
Okay. Can I pause for 1 second just because I need a quick powder
Of
room
course you
break?
can. Of course you can.
Um, because I actually want to answer this thoroughly.
Okay.
So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sure.
Welcome back from that short little toilet break that we both needed to have.
Powder
So
room.
yeah,
Powder room. I
powder
had to
room.
powder my nose.
So I'll let you. We'll pick back up with that question of how does it affect you when you lose mates from the Blue family?
So I actually want to talk about a very specific occasion, that is related to what we were previously talking about, where one of our media officers who sounded like Barry Manilow, so I loved listening to him on the air, he died. And on the day that he was laid into the ground, our police memorial was pelted with red paint, by protesters. And it just like that moment impacted me. And there was another particular occasion where someone I marched next to, at the police college, and he was in my class. He killed himself with a service rifle in his cruiser in 2019. And those moments impacted me. And like this was before, I actually considered that myself. So I understand. The media officer died from natural causes, but just the utter lack of respect, where at one point I think that we were respected by society, and some of it's earned, a lot of it's not. Um, so I think every time a colleague is gone, it hits me in a different way.
Mm. As it would,
Hmm.
it's and like it's as you said, you know, joining the police many years ago was
Hmm.
deemed a very honourable thing to, or joining the military, becoming a first
Yep.
responder,
Yep.
fire, ambulance, police was an honourable thing, and there
Hmm.
was respect shown, by the
Yep.
public, and
Yep.
now it's gone so far the other way that society doesn't. And I know, like, we've got youth crime through the, like, over here, it has just gone through the
Oh,
roof, and like
yeah.
they just go, "Puh, what, you want me to
Yep.
respect you? Like, yeah, I know my rights. I've got rights." It's like,
Hmm.
as and this is where you and I were speaking off air, where I know myself that I came, like, I celebrated my 33rd birthday last week, and I know when a police officer from when I was a kid told me to move on, you moved on. You didn't dare
Hmm.
backchat. Now, like, you seem to cop it. Oh, well, I've got rights.
Hmm. Don't even get me started. I can use a very real example, where there was a parking lot fight between a bunch of youths, and I was trying to split it up by myself. And one of them just looked at me and said, "Aren't you a little too attractive to be a police officer? I could be your mom." like what? What is happening right now? And like this is how we're treating police, which like no respect whatsoever, because like that's how legislation works, right? Like the
Mm.
legislation is quite broken.
Oh, it's and this is why when we first, caught up before this, and had a
Mhm.
chat, I was amazed. It was like, am I living like it seems to be Canada is exactly the same as Australia. We seem to be having the same problems and the same issues here in Australia as what you guys are having in Canada.
Oh, it's global. Australia and Canada are very, very similar culturally, but you
Mm.
have substantially warmer weather and animals that want to kill you
Hey,
all the
so
time.
you guys do too. You guys have got uh black bears and you like
Black bears are fine. They just eat our garbage. Like they're not vicious at all. Wolves aren't really vicious either. Um, and coyotes like typically just attack dogs and cats. So
so you guys are okay. And I mean you've got the grizzly bear. You got the you guys have got the grizzlies. So
not really. That's more US. We have
ah
the
what
black bear. Polar bears are very vicious. So we're seals.
okay.
But they're like way up north. So like typically we're good. I've seen a polar bear. They're
Yeah.
massive and terrifying. And like seals, although they're adorable, are very, very angry creatures. And our Canada geese, who like seriously, that is like should be our military. They are like terrifying.
Well,
I don't know. Have you heard about Canadian geese?
I haven't, no. Please
They
explain.
migrate. They migrate to the US in the winter, and they attack people. They're not as bad here because they come in like they're Canada geese. But like they're like these weird like dinosaurs that like fly in the sky and they're so angry and they hiss. Um,
Yeah, right.
so yeah, like when I see them, and I remember like this summer there was like three of them hissing at me on a sidewalk and they were in this like field. I like crossed over to the other. They're terrifying. Like they will like gouge your eyeballs out. They will.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So tip to players here is when you go to Canada, don't piss the geese, don't piss the yeah.
Well, it's so symbolic because everybody thinks like geese and like Canadians are so friendly. Yes, we are. We're very polite. Like our geese have had enough, clearly. Um, but like, there's a parallel here where,
Absolutely.
we'll elbows up when we have to,
Yeah.
but like our geese are just done. So they'll go to Florida and like gouge eyeballs out. Like it is wild.
Well, you do mention here in Australia, we've got 9 of the 10 most deadliest snakes here in Australia. We've got
Yes.
spiders, we've got, venomous spiders,
Oh, oh,
dingoes that'll, that eat babies and all. So
oh,
yeah,
what? They
yeah, yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah. This from a long time ago. Yeah, crocodiles. So yeah, saltwater crocodiles,
Oh
sharks.
my God, is that where the dingo ate my baby came
That's
from?
yes,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. That's actually a true
oh,
story.
that's real.
Yeah, that
That's
was
real.
real. Yeah, that was a real. And you did. I like your Aussie accent there. That was brilliant. You
Well,
did.
like, and because I know it from my childhood.
Yeah. No,
Like,
that was true. That was a real. That was true story. Yeah. Unfortunately, that
oh
was.
my God.
Yeah. So yeah, I forget her. I know the lady. I know the mother, but I can't remember. Anyway, I'm not going to say it anyway. I won't say it on air. But anyway, let's get
Oh,
back to you.
oh.
Let's get back to your let's get back to your story. And
We could
uh,
talk about the dingoes forever because
we
that
could.
is upsetting at
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
That is alarming.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it does yeah, it has happened in the past. So yeah, Australia is a very yeah, it's a very very dangerous place. So yeah, so's
Oh, well,
Canada.
clearly.
Yeah, so's
Well,
Canada
like
too.
not typically. Like people die usually like driving their cars on black ice.
Yeah.
And like I think we have like two wolf attacks in the last 50 years because they had rabies.
Mm,
It's more dangerous for like dogs and kittens because
yeah.
coyotes, or like
Yeah.
people like to say coyotes. Like I don't even know. Like, call them coyotes. Be normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's right. And so you recently have just like, so thank you for sharing about, the loss of, it's never easy losing, your brothers and sister, from the Blue family. And thank you for opening up about that. And recently you, as I said at the start, you've just become an author and a best-selling author at that. So congratulations.
Weird.
And yeah, it's weird, but it's, hey,
It's very weird.
congratulations, and it's your book.
Thanks.
Your book is called Aftershock. Aftershot: From Silence in Policing to Unstoppable Beyond PTSD. Talk me through
Hmm.
this process of writing your book, and was it a? And I'm going to say absolute. You wrote it in a month, so
Hmm.
that is just psycho. I'm just going to say that too. That is just
ADHD.
ADHD, absolutely just wild. And considering it took me 3.5 years, like to write mine, but was it a cathartic process? And talk me through this process of writing a book.
Uh, no. So when I went on workers' compensation, they assigned me a psychologist who wanted me to journal. And I think journaling is dumb. I'm sorry for people who journal, but I just like I like for what? Like bedtime reading? Like what am I gonna do with this? It just
Mm,
feels like a waste of paper. And when I started advocating, just like giving my thoughts about having PTSD on social media on a very small level, my psychologist said, "Well, you're writing a book then." I'm like, well, Janice, sorry, I didn't mean to use your name, but there's a lot of Janices in the world. It's all good. Um, I said, what? And she made me buy a laptop in session. And then I had to justify said purchase as, a mother of two little kids and like paying for a house. And Canada is very expensive. So I actually had to take said laptop. I brought it outside. It was May, so it was warm. And I brought it outside for like an hour or two every day. And I would write a chapter every time I went out. And then suddenly I had the whole book completed. And I remember writing the last three chapters. It was in one day where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like it. I want it to be done. So I just wrapped it all up. And it actually caused like a fairly significant skin condition because I was reliving and remembering everything that I'm still dealing with to this
hmm
day. Um, it saved my life, but everything came out. And then it brought me here, which is a lot, to say the least. I still can't believe that I wrote a book. I still can't believe that it's published and like I have like a box of them right next to me.
hmm
It's crazy to me. And, I've always been like, I've always flown under the radar, and that's where I like things. Um, but I have
Not
a very
now.
strong, puke.
No.
Yeah, I've never wanted this level of attention.
Mm.
I'm still wrapping my brain around it. Um, I don't know how like it went global. Like, what? Like I literally thought that I was just appeasing my psychologist. Um, and like justifying the purchase. Like I didn't expect this. Like it was just my story and then, it just exploded. So there was no outline, there was no anything. It was just writing and like I was a mess. Like where I would like write for a little bit and then I would play my guitar and that would be that. And then it became this like what? Where
And
bleh.
like this is the thing that, because I've been speaking to you now for a couple of months, and
Mhm.
the thing I loved about you and the thing that wanted me to get you on the podcast was your absolute drive for helping first responders and who are struggling with PTSD and also people who are struggling with mental health. That was where I'm like, I resonated so much with you because it is such a noble cause to want to help others, and that is why you are a police officer. And this is your this is your new purpose. Like this is now
It is.
what you are, and I can tell, like I can see it, like when you're talking about your book now, like the lighting up that's on your face, I can see it, and it is so. I can tell you want to help people, and it is like showing your vulnerability. I know it because I've done it as well. You and I have spoken. I've written a book as
Yep.
well, and I've put all
Yep.
my warts and all out there for people to judge, for people to, criticize and
Hmm.
make fun of, laugh. But I wrote my book to help just one person, and I know that your book has done the same. I know that already.
Yeah. And I actually say that it was just to help one person, even if it's just my mother who reads the like first sentence of every paragraph, but I help one person, that's what matters. And when I saw those media releases of officers killing themselves after screaming into a void and services were pretending that they had no idea, like we couldn't have known they're demons. Well, like, yeah, you did. You just ignored it.
Mm.
Imagine being with no executive functioning and having no support. I have a family, I have friends, I have a huge, huge support network. And even I almost ended up in that place.
Mm.
Um, if you're alone and you feel like nobody gives a shit about you,
Hmm.
like that, I can't imagine. And that's what just burned me. And I had to do something.
You're gonna make me cry because that was me.
Sorry, I was like,
That's no, you've really hit a
sorry, I hit a
nerve.
chord.
No, it's and because I often talk about it on my like in every podcast I do is that
Mhm.
I was there, and
Yep, me too.
I've been there twice, and
Me too.
it's a dark, dark place, and
Maybe three times.
it takes a lot of work to get yourself out of that hole
Yep.
because you do feel like, and I know you would as well, and this is for me, I felt that the world would be a better place if I wasn't here, and
We
I
were
just,
just gonna say the same thing.
yeah,
Like everyone would be better off without me.
yep, yep, no one
I'm a
cares.
burden.
Yep,
No
it
one
literally,
cares.
yep, I'm a burden.
It would be so much easier
Yep, and
on them and on me.
yep, and
Yep.
it's, I said it to my mum at my book launch night and my dad that I said it when we actually launched the book that I said my parents would be better off and my brother would be better off if I
Hmm.
wasn't here. And, I've since learned with the work I do now for, an organization here in Australia, I now, I'm now a mental health first aider. I speak for this organization, and the ripple
Hmm.
effect, Lana, is 100. 100 people are affected by if you
Yep.
make that, and, if you make that decision 100 people are affected. That's the ripple effect, and
Hmm.
that it's really yeah.
But
I'm
that's what
real
your brain tells you. It's what
exactly.
your brain tells you. So my kids, um, there is no world that they would be better off without me. And I think that made the big difference for me is like I couldn't imagine how they would feel and how
Mm.
they would be impacted, but I don't know what I would have done without them.
Well,
And that's the truth.
I'm glad you're still here. I really am because
I'm glad
you
you're
are.
still here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's honestly, and this is what drives both of us to do what we do now to help others who to you know make them know that they're not alone and it's not weak to speak
Mhm.
and it's not, putting your hand up takes courage. And I wanted it segues me into my next question to you is, recently
Mhm.
you were diagnosed with PTSD and, ADHD, which I'll get to in a minute. But for
Mhm.
you, how hard was that for you to finally realize, hey, I actually need some help. Like I need to speak to someone and I need to, because you've been compartmentalizing all this stuff for years and years. How hard was that
Mhm.
for you to go, I actually need help?
I don't even think that there was a moment. I think my brain exploded and it happened at work. Um, where there was one particular moment where I just couldn't take it anymore and the pressure was on and on and on. And I told them like it needs to stop. Like just pump the brakes. Stop micromanaging me. Like, and they were putting cameras on my station for whatever reason. They said officer safety. It doesn't matter. It broke my brain.
Mm.
And then my supervisor was calling me on repeat while I was at work. Um, and I couldn't take the call. And I went into the lunchroom and I called the association and I broke down. And then I called my family doctor. I don't remember the ride home. Um, a lot happened after, and my brain just broke. And I ended up, because it took from May until September for me to get a psychologist, and I hardly remember most of it. I was in like a weird sleep paralysis, which I'm still often in.
Mm.
Um, it's just a blur where I don't think there was ever like a moment where I need help. I just need it out.
And I know exactly what that's like because the blur is, and it's a fog. You're in a fog, like and you're
Hmm.
on autopilot. You're sort of just going through the
Yeah.
motions, and you're like, oh, actually, oh, did that day go by? Oh, that's another day, and then,
Hmm.
and so when you finally got into, the cycle, which, that takes, and did you
Thank God.
click? Did you click with your? Because I didn't. For me, it took me 3 years to find the right one. Were you lucky that you clicked straight away?
No, but we did eventually. So I wasn't emoting correctly as somebody with like ADHD. Sorry, I have a wobble chair, so
No,
I'm all
you're
over the place here. Um, so my psychologist recognized immediately that I was not emoting. I was a robot. Um, and it took many, many months and being medicated for ADHD to actually make me emote. And that's when like everything fell apart all over again was when I started emoting.
yeah, and see, that's the thing. So you were diagnosed first with ADHD and then diagnosed with your PTSD.
No, it was PTSD first.
Right.
And yeah, so basically what happened, I was diagnosed with PTSD and she had asked me a few times, she's like, have you ever been tested for ADHD? I'm like, isn't that like the little boy disease? Like that, like they're hyper? Like what? And eventually, and it was like almost a year ago, she said, I cannot deal with your PTSD until I test you. And like we had to do the full
Hmm.
scale, like intelligence testing, ADHD, everything. Um, and sure enough, I had two contradictory thought patterns. And everything made sense. And then I got medicated. And like my other thought pattern, and I don't typically like to say this, it's like being gifted, but I'm also demented, which like, I'm sorry, that's not politically correct.
Yeah.
But
I know what you mean. I
so
know what you mean.
yeah. So in three intelligence categories, I test like 98, 99%. And then in the other two, I'm like below 2%.
Right.
So, and I'm like, so am I a demented genius? Is that where the term comes from? So yes, that's where the term comes from. Um, yeah, so it was wild, and I still have a very difficult time. Like even PTSD, it gets exacerbated,
Mm.
where I have no working memory at all. So that's like short term, but I can remember like everything else from a billion years ago.
Mm.
And my processing speed is very slow. But then, I am really high with like spatial awareness and fluidity and verbal comprehension.
Mm.
And that's why, I'm artistic and I can write a book in, 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, literally. And as when we spoke, off air when we caught up, a couple of last week, sorry, and
Hmm.
you're like ADD, it's my superpower. Like it's my superpower,
Yeah.
and it is your
Yeah.
superpower. It's mine too. Like,
Yeah.
and I know for you and for me. like I got frustrated as a kid. Like I was like frustrated because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, why don't I just fucking get this? Like, what is
Yeah.
this? And you know,
You're like,
it's
what's wrong with
and
you?
exactly, and it's like I'm
Yep.
stupid, I'm useless, I'm the
Yes.
all the terms, and it's but see, for you being an adult, it'd be different because I had it as a child, and I'm like, I hate this. I want to throw the dummy out of the
I did
cot.
too when I
Yeah,
was a child.
yeah,
Well,
right.
and like I realize now that I understood, like, maybe you know how bad instructions are for
Correct.
us
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like compute.
yes.
I understood maybe 20% of what people were telling me. Um, and I only recently discovered that people smile at each other, like normally, like, just in passing.
Yes.
I'm like, what? What? Like, what is happening? So, like, but how can you notice these like very minute things
Mm,
when, like, in my case, my brain was a bowl of spaghetti, and because I was also like gifted in very annoying ways,
mm.
every single noodle had its own intelligent thought. So I was having constant, like, sorry, I'm using my hands a lot, but
Yeah, no, I
I was
know.
having constant debates in my brain at all times. Like I remember having like an entirely sleepless night over sink, sank, and sunk, which was mentioned to me by my like roommate, where I'm like, what's the difference between sank and sunk? Like, why is the synthetic language so stupid? Like it means the same thing where like you can sort of like come to a conclusion even to this day. Like it bugs me.
Yeah. And
Where
do you, sorry to cut you off, do you notice
no.
too that your brain cannot switch off? Do you find it hard to
Mm-hmm.
switch off because your brain's
Oh.
always thinking?
Oh, I have industrial level sleep medication
Yeah.
because like there's no other way. There is no other like judge me if you need to, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I like either I'm up until like next week
Mm.
or I take this medication and then like everything just flips off and it's beautiful. Like I don't have to live in my brain. And even
Yes.
my psychologist was like, a day in your brain is my worst nightmare. Like mine too, but I'm forced here. So
Yeah, I actually have to live in this brain. Like
yeah,
you get
every
it,
day.
you get it by an appointment once a week, or once a
Mm-hmm.
month. I have to live in this brain.
Yeah, sounds rough. Sounds rough for you.
Yeah, try
Um,
living it.
but exactly. So like this has been my life, and I don't like to mention like the three like intelligent thought patterns
Mm,
along with learning disability. I'm like, ugh, because like you'll get judged.
mm,
Where like I have to, and I asked, I'm like, is there medication to deal with giftedness? No, that's encouraged. Ooh,
mm.
here I am.
And you don't, and I know you because I know your personality, and I know that you don't want to be classed as a victim because you're not a victim. Like
No, I'm
and
not.
that mentality
No.
of, people do get stuck in that, poor me, poor me, poor me, when, it's not like this is the cards you've been dealt, and Lana,
Hmm.
you're doing the best you can with the cards that you've been dealt.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, well, and like I'm not a victim. I'm actually lucky to have ADHD. I'm lucky to be gifted. The memory thing I could probably do without because then I could actually get something done.
Mm,
Um, but no, I'm not a victim, and everything I've been through has led me here.
exactly.
Which
And yeah, I'm glad you're still here. Like, honestly, I say that to you, and
I'm glad you're still
wholeheartedly,
here.
I'm I'm sending big love and hugs to you because
Right back
it's
at you.
thank you, and it's because I know you're not done. There's a lot more coming your
Nope.
way now in the work you're doing, and how, like, you talk about those really dark times, and how
Hmm.
has the support of your husband been helping you and your family and wider friends getting you through those dark times?
My friends are fantastic. And my husband is adapting. He's had to watch me under a lot of distress, which I'm sure is very hard. So he's working on understanding.
Mm,
Um, and I've always been like quirky. Like that's who I am.
mm,
And he's always appreciated me for being quirky and letting it all hang out and being no nonsense. That's what he liked about me. That was actually like one of the things. He's like, "You're so quirky." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." And, he'll go to Disney World with me and watch me bawl my eyes out in like Star Wars land. Like he doesn't like he enjoys that, I consider myself like a merry marauding pirate.
Mm.
Like a long time ago, I got into the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. So, like, and these are things he appreciates. He doesn't totally get because who would,
Mm.
aside from like Bobby Henderson, who pioneered it. Um, but like he appreciates me for exactly who I am. And actually, like, oddly enough, our second date to like kind of test him, I brought him to super gay karaoke night, with all of my super gay friends. And he loved it. He was right on the dance floor, like we were cutting a rug, and it was great. And that's who I am. I'm accepting of everybody, and I just want us all to be human.
Yep.
And that, I could go on until next week about like just being human and what that would entail.
Mm. No, no, and that's yeah, I get that, and it's I think for you and for me, it's just accepting just people who they are, what they are, and
Hmm.
just and I think what I've learned through my journey, and I shared this with you last week, was that uh, I'm now protecting the inner peace, and that's all I want
Hmm.
is that inner peace of my mind of just to, and I know you're the same. It's, just can we all just get on and do what we're meant to be doing here?
Hmm.
Just be of service to others and treat people with a bit of kindness. It's really not too much
It's
to
not
ask.
hard. It's not hard. I actually have my next book planned in my head. And like I had a different title in mind, but then I changed it recently to The Renewable Art of Not Being a Dick Today.
I like that. I'm going to look out for that book. That's going to be the second book.
Well, I'm still dealing with the first one because apparently writing a book, it doesn't just appear. You have to do stuff in order. That's way more work. I
Yeah.
can write like six books this week, but then I wouldn't want to deal with the aftermath because it's a lot. And I can actually say my editor's name. The amount of times I say, "Damn it, Sue," in a day. And she was like my like fighty editor that like is very, I love her to death.
Yeah.
But she's so opinionated and like she knows what she knows. She actually like is the reason for my title
Mm.
of the book, where like it was a big like hot debate. Um, but yeah, like so much work. And
Yeah.
like doing the audit, my vocal cords may never recover from the audiobook. May never.
Yes, I was going to say that I'll bring that in shortly of how people can get your book and how they can find it on Audible and all these, and yeah, like all kudos. As I said to you, as I said, you're psycho. I meant that with the ingest of just
Oh, I
that's
am
crazy.
psycho. It's
That
it's fine.
yeah,
But like the audiobook is the reason I have this microphone because I refused to go into a studio
yep.
and I tried to record it on the laptop and like send it to my producer and she's like, "Absolutely not."
Well,
Like
it's good. I look forward to listening to. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation with you, but I'm going to enjoy listening to your full story and for you, like there's. I'm going to get to that question. What are your plans in the future shortly? But knowing what you know now and all that you've been through, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self, and would she listen?
well, first of all, she would not listen, especially not to me. Um, I would say just be you. Like, it's very simple. Just believe in who you are and you are good enough. You don't have to shrink for anyone. Like, chin up. It's going to be okay. This is not the end of the road. You're going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. You're going to be okay. And then by figuring it out, I still haven't had it figured out. And like, this is coming from like your 40-year-old self.
And hey, look, it's great advice to any young person out there is, and every person I ask that, they always say the same thing. It's no, they wouldn't listen, and a lot of it is enjoy the journey. Don't be so focused on the destination. Enjoy the journey.
I would say that you may not always enjoy the journey. And
Very
I'm
true.
sorry for that, 18-year-old Lana.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I'll say that to you though. As you said earlier on in the podcast, it is all those experiences have got Lena to where she is now.
Precisely. And that's because the journey has been rough.
Mm.
Um, and I wouldn't take it back
No,
because it made me who I am, and here we are.
yeah,
So
and so, what advice would you give any young person out there who is thinking of, joining the emergency services?
don't. Um, oh, that's a toughie. Um, don't like keep your friends. Keep your friends. You don't need to fit into one singular narrative. And watch out for that. Um, and you know what? You'll figure out the calls. You have the tools, you have the training, you'll figure it out. Keep your head in a swivel, always.
Mm,
Have eyes in the back of your head. Know how to work your weapons, like in a second. Like you need to be able to draw very quickly. You need to know how to rack. You need to know how to work out a jam. And honestly, the best advice I've ever gotten, which I've given to every rookie, is where the head goes, the body goes.
very good advice. Very, very good advice. And that's the thing is that yeah, it's not what you see on TV. It is very different. It is, it is
Mm-hmm.
a very dangerous job. It's life and
Yep.
death, and
Yep.
it's you're going to face trauma, and you know it's and this is the thing. Like I've spoken to a few police veterans where they've gone, they say it that they go, they come out of the academy and they go, oh, it's not like what you see on TV. It's like, well,
No.
what did you expect? What did you expect?
The
Like,
smells.
yeah,
And, like you don't smell things on TV. And honestly, the one thing I didn't expect is the smells.
mm,
The
yeah,
puke, like the biohazard, the feces. There's a lot of feces,
mm,
like a weird amount, and like a large amounts of blood have a smell. So it's the smells that really, really got me.
mm,
So, like in your duty bag, grab some Vicks, keep it there, and just wipe your nose, and it's better. I
mm.
promise.
Yeah. No, great, absolutely
And
great
don't touch your
advice.
face.
Yeah,
Don't touch your face.
and wear gloves. Yeah, always wear.
Oh, wear gloves. And
Yes.
like, don't even just wear gloves. Put Teflon gloves on and then medical gloves over top
Mm.
when you can. Because I am telling you right now, my hands have slipped into a butt crack and it was just with my Teflon gloves, and there was no amount of washing where I just had to order new gloves. And I can still smell that butt crack to this day, which I'm not trying to insult that person's butt crack,
No.
but like it was a thing. It was like August, which is summertime for us,
Yep.
and it was very hot, and he had not showered in a good long time, and it's a very long story that I will not share, but like the butt crack smell forever.
Oh, I knew we'd go. I knew we'd get one of those stories. I knew. I can see
The
your
amount of
face.
poop,
I
the
can
amount
see.
of poop in this job. And like the minute that it happened, that like my fingers, I was like, and like we were also trying to help him. Um, oh, I will never forget. I will never forget. Just buy new gloves. But like it's better if you Teflon. medical glove.
I
And then you
like,
just take those medical gloves off, and then everything just gets put in the trash. You don't have to get like a new pair of Teflon gloves. I'm just saying.
I like very good advice. So any young player out there, make sure you follow what Lana says and do it. You know, you have to do
Oh,
it. So and
jam them in all your pockets.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, in your opinion, and this is where I really want to dive in here because I know you're passionate about this. In your opinion, what more needs to be done to help first responders, be it with support offered for trauma that you guys see on a day-to-day basis?
Step one, acknowledge it at every level. Don't put a band-aid on it and don't do the bare minimum for duty of care. Don't use the cheapest company because that's not duty of care. Listen to your people.
Mm,
Don't make projects without discussing it with the front line. Um, you know, actually talk to your people. Um, I think there's just a lack of communication. Um, and like I just think step one is acknowledging it and acknowledging that there's an issue, and then we go from there.
mm,
And then we can look into like other therapies, like what should be legislated, what like, but right now it's such a mess, because of, optics placating that, like we're just losing people. Like we're bleeding out, with officers, patching out or quitting. And then we're not getting the best recruits because we don't have the best reputation,
mm.
um, because, we're just placating to a brochure. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. And is like in your own case,
Yeah.
is there a program like in place to get you back on the road, or what are they doing? Are they just happy seeing you off, or what's going on?
Oh, so I recently had a new case manager through workers' compensation that tried to force me back, because of the skin issues I referred to earlier.
Hmm.
I had neck surgery, which included 10 stitches. And she tried to have me go to a meeting with human resources 2 days after, like neck surgery,
Mm, mm.
and disregarded all of my medical professionals. So, yes, like they do try to get us back to work, but not in the right way. And they don't listen to us. I think listening is key.
Mm, mm. No, well, that's it. Yeah, yeah, I'd rather have you, 100% back to being physically fit, mentally
Mhm.
fit, and get you back to work than, like if there's no like, than forcing you back when you're not well, like you're
Yeah.
still recovering.
Well, and she used said skin issue, saying if this like skin issue doesn't dissipate within like 4 weeks, then we're going to remove your like workers' compensation. Like, pardon? How does that happen?
Mm,
So clearly it was just a very like uninformed person that was managing my case, but that's also an issue where like why isn't she trained? Who is supervising her? Where you're dealing with the helpers of society that have been internally injured,
mm,
and like not knowing anything, you're disregarding, the medical practitioners. So anyway, it's a wild story,
mm.
but like it's a problem. And my service in particular actually prides itself, on getting the most officers back to work.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
it seems like it's not too dissimilar out here, where you have insurance
Hmm.
companies trying to, like just it. We're trying to over here, Lana. We're trying to get a like similar to defense, where you have like a white card and where you
Hmm.
are protected for your psych. So go and see the psych and physio. and your medication. If you
Yep.
need medication, it comes under. So, that's something that we're trying to get changed here, like the military have, where they've got a white card for
Hmm.
those sort of things. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, though, like you guys, we come under state by state. We're run by the states, not by,
Yep.
we're not federally funded.
Yep.
So it's up to the individual states, and it is, yeah, we're pushing, we're pushing shit up a hill. We're trying, but yeah,
Hmm.
and it's exactly every single, you know, police police officer I've ever spoken to, if they are
Hmm.
off or they're medically retired, then the insurance companies try and fuck them over. Like, and
Yep.
you've served your country, you've served your state.
Yep. Yep. Oh, yep. Yep. And like our workers' compensation is insurance. Like they are an insurance company. And that seems to be lost on a lot of people. Where perhaps, I don't know, they shouldn't be an insurance company. Like, you know,
Mm,
they're contracted. And I'm nonpartisan, but I think in very sensitive circumstances such as this, like perhaps it should be like government controlled and not like contracted to for profits.
yep.
But who am I, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you're like me. We're just nobodies, but we actually, the people that are in the game that actually, yeah, have had that experience. And yeah, but what do we know? What do we know, Lana? We know nothing.
what do we know after like having the experience, right?
Exactly.
So like it's
Mm,
wild to me that we have these insurance companies that are contracted legislatively, and that's considered like to be duty of care. Like, no, no, it's not. It's not. There needs to be better duty of care, especially when these are like the governors of society that use of force, right? Like we physically ensure that the law is being abided by. And we're not being taken care of. So like we need to take this seriously. So
mm.
very wild to me.
Yeah, it's just, and it annoys me, and hearing that, the insurance companies are trying to, fuck you over and fuck all police over. And it's like, at the end of the day, you guys you risk your life on a daily basis to
Yep.
protect and serve those people that are in the insurance company. And yet
Hmm.
they try and stuff you over when it's your entitlements of what you've worked hard for to,
Hmm.
it's just wild. It makes no sense.
Well, like that worker in particular, my psychologist had a conversation with her and she said, I'm trying to ensure that Lana doesn't projectile vomit. And I said to her, like, have you ever been presented with a decapitated head? No. Like, what? Who? What? Anyway,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a rabbit hole we could go down, but we won't, because
forever. No,
I know it's getting late over there, and I know
tis.
you got to get to bed, so we'll leave. But it highlights, and before I move on to the next point, it highlights what you've just said, where decapitated head, it highlights what police officers face on a day-to-day basis. And that is why I love
Precisely.
bringing these podcasts to the civilian population, to show that it's not a normal job. And
No.
you
And we're
and
human.
exactly,
We are human. And I think that's missed often where people think we're robots, but that's because we're trained to behave that way. So I
exactly.
can't fault anyone for that. So,
And and you got to think about it too, as you said earlier on in the podcast. Most people's interaction with police is either a traffic police officer that is an asshole to
mhm.
them, or or you're dealing with a it's the person's worst day of their life, and a police
Yep.
officer is showing up to them. So the interaction with
Yep.
police, it's not always, it's not from a positive perspective. It's
Yeah.
from either a negative perspective. So yeah, you can understand why people have the view of police and
Hmm.
but yeah, just know that you are loved. You are loved, Lana. We do love you. So and that's why I wanted to get you
Thank
on
you.
the podcast and share your story. And I've
I
got a
think you're
couple.
loved right back.
Ah, thanks, legend. No, I appreciate that. The check's in the mail for you. So and I've got a couple of final questions before I let you go. And
Yep. Yep.
with, Lana, looking back now with all that you've been through
Yep.
and all that you've experienced, was joining the police still the best decision? And would you do it again with all that you've gone through?
Yes, and yes, and yes.
Love it.
Who else would shake it up?
Very true.
Like, why not me? Why not me? So I have an insider's perspective, and police don't tend to trust civilians. So I have access to a lot of knowledge and a lot of insight that I think is valuable for society. So yes, and yes, and yes.
I love it. No, it's good. And as we said, it's led you to the work that you're going to go on and do now. And what are your plans going into the future? Are you now looking to get into the advocacy space for police, fire, ambulance, for all first responders? Is that that's where you want to go?
I'll always be an advocate, regardless of what I do. Um, I like hope to be able to one day return to policing, but who knows? And the one thing I've learned from all of this is that the world is my oyster. And that when I start speaking the truth, opportunities come. And I've never reached out to anybody. I've just, delivered my message and I let people or opportunities come to me. And that's been huge.
Mm.
So I think I'm just gonna not know, and I'm okay with that.
That's good. And what are your plans going forward with you and your family? What are your big plans? Just to be there, raise the kids, be a good mum, be a good wife. What's the plans going forward?
Well, my kids are obsessed with Disney, so I hope to bring them there again. So Disney is actually super fun. And I just want to be a good mom. My daughter is a badass. So I want to support her. She's actually the only female that plays competitive baseball at her age in our entire town, and she's faster than 40 boys. So I'm going to continue fostering that. My son is hilarious, and he's still quite young. But I just want to be the best mom in the world, and I want to give them all of the opportunities and let them have a magical childhood as best I can.
Mm. No, I think that's what all kids deserve is to have a magical
Hmm.
childhood and dream big and go and, experience life, going full into, having dreams and aspirations and, eventually working out that there's the big wide world out there that isn't so nice, but that's when you become an adult and you can face those challenges as you and I have faced and will continue to face
Hmm.
into the future.
I want to prepare them. And that's my life's goal. I want them to remember their childhood fondly and magically. And right now they're high on Christmas,
Yep. Well,
and I love that.
they're gonna have a white Christmas, which is awesome. We're gonna have a hot Christmas over here, but it's good.
I'll trade you.
Well, I might actually do that one year. I've never had a white Christmas, so
Well,
we
come on down.
might.
We have like several Friendsmasses. I'll just like court you along to all of them.
Awesome. No, that'd be cool. And what's your favorite hockey team over there?
Oh, I have to say the Leafs, otherwise I'll be disowned.
Well, the Leafs. Well, I've told you, my favorite player was Crosby. I loved him, and
Hmm.
just what a man, what an absolute gun. And I remember watching him in Prague, and he was just an absolute weapon against Belarus, and absolutely destroyed them.
We
So
have the best players, but they
you do.
distribute them like among like the US. And then they win. And like those are our people. Like let's like bring them to the Leafs, and the Leafs need like again this like parallels leadership. It's not just about money and optics, folks.
That's
Keep
right.
our people here.
Exactly. And as you said to
Hmm.
me, Americans are, is it gruff? Gruff? Is that what it was?
Gruff.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yes.
they're gruffer. They're gruffer.
I
Like
love
no
that.
offense to all of my US friends, but you're gruff.
Yes, I I love that, and it's a term I'm going to use going forward. So, and
Yeah.
how do people? So, if people want to get in contact with you to, get you on the podcast, or how do they get in touch with you? How do they follow you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn and I actually do run that profile, where I don't necessarily run all of my public profiles. There is Lana Unmuted at gmail.com, but I would suggest reaching out to me on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And that probably is the best avenue of getting in contact directly with me.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes when the podcast goes live. That if people do want to get in touch with you, just go straight to the link of your LinkedIn. And do you have a website for the book, or is people they just go to Amazon or?
There is a website which I will send you that is like for purchasing books, but in terms of books, like you either go to Amazon, that's the easiest, especially for shipping. So you don't have to pay $1 million for shipping. Just go to Amazon and Audible. Well, that's like the World Wide Web. So it comes immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to get my hot hands on a signed copy from you. And yeah, I look forward to reading your story and going into as it is in any podcast. It's very hard to, go like you could speak for hours on, your whole career.
Hmm.
This is just, and we've got to leave some stories in the book for people to buy the book so they can read your story. So yeah, it's very hard to compress, all your story into, 2 hours. So thank you for
Hmm.
your time and thank you for, allowing me to share your story. And I want to thank you for your service and for what you've done for your country and also for the wider first responder community worldwide, and what you're now going to do for the advocacy work of first responders, because let's face it, we need it, mate. Like it is, it's we are definitely sailing that ship without a sail at the moment, and we need everyone to get on board. And and advocacy for first responders is, it's an absolutely noble cause. And thank you for what you do, and thank you, and I appreciate you for trusting me to share your story on True Blue. So thank you.
You know what? I could say basically everything you just said right back to you. So everything you just said, right back to you.
Thank you.
And we will talk soon. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thanks, legend. And yeah, I
You're
look
a
for
legend.
and I look forward to getting over there and catching up with you in person, and having a beer or two, and just enjoying
Yeah.
a catch up. So it'll be good.
Well, and then you come to Friendsmas and have a white Christmas, and then you could bring me on a yacht. So
Absolutely.
winning,
Yeah. Yeah.
win
Absolutely.
win,
Yeah. Definitely.
win
All right.
win.
All right, legend. Thank you. I'll talk soon. Cheers.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thanks for listening to True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. Real talk with those that pledge to keep us safe with grit, sacrifice, and determination. See you next time.